So if you want a right-wing party, y'all keep saying we have to like recreate a new right wing or something like that. If anything, we could just go back to the original right wing before the left wing completely destroyed it and blew it out of existence. So the right wing is very simple. It's just small government, capitalism, Christian-based morality, or some form of morality, whether you worship, other gods or whatever. Something that resembles rule of law. That's a start.
So you want to keep the base American conservatism?
That word has completely lost meaning. I don't even know what conservative means in America.
Should we have a constitutional republic?
Your way.
My way would be so far back, it would, we would have to go back to like the Pilgrims getting away from authoritarian governments and separating church and state, and then creating a libertarian
don't you think secularism is part of the problem because it relativizes?
No. The Pilgrims were very religious. We were very Christian when we built this country.
I understand that, but secularism as an Enlightenment ideology relativizes all thought and all religion, generally speaking.
That's
so therefore, the state is the ultimate God because it is the ultimate authority.
That's the problem.
The problem is that it masqueraded as Christianity. And
so the problem is it's definitely one of those catch-22s. It's like it's a paradox where like if you have too much freedom, you have people turning away from God. If you have no freedom, you have a theocracy in which everyone's forced by the government to worship your God. And so we tried freedom.
God doesn't want you to follow him because you have to. He wants you to do it because you want to.
We tried theocracy. Don't matter. It failed. Europe.
Which theocracy you're talking about? You're talking about Calvin and his theocracy. Which you said you have to go all the way back to the Pilgrims. That's not very far back.
You can't put all theocracy in one.
I'm talking about all of them, Wesford. I don't care.
What about monarchy?
Catholic Europe or the Ottoman Empire in the Middle East or whatever. It doesn't matter which one you pick. The theocracies always fail.
If you believe in the Bible, then you believe that no man can rule. And only Christ is going to be king.
We separated church and state, and we had a Christian nation that freely worshipped.
That's part of the problem, though. The separation of church and the state is why we're here. That was a tragedy.
No, that wasn't the problem. The problem was it slowly got corrupted by the authoritarian socialists and Marxism.
Can you point to one secular nation or one formerly Protestant nation that's still majority Christian? I mean, the secularism is the problem.
I can't because the problem is it's not that a free religious nation is the perfect answer. It's the best answer. It's better than a theocracy, but it's not perfect. So it still has
what's wrong.
What's wrong with the theocracy?
Again, Catholic Europe is what we were trying to get away from in the United States, and even the Church of England, which is a Protestant.
There's other models than just Catholic Europe.
Walmart Jordan Peterson, bro. Calm down.
But do you think the UK is still a Christian country?
No, not even remotely, dude. UK is gone a long time ago.
Okay, so you're arguing for
I'm arguing that the United States of America, when it was formed, was mostly by Christians for Christians of Christians.
Okay, now we agree with that.
And the problem
they weren't actually Christians. Look at the country they built.
All right, Rand, we get the point, dude.
Why are the roads built in the satanic geometry? I guess we were Christians.
Nothing's real. Nothing's real. We get it, bro. We get it. Theocracy. So obviously they were the bad guys we were fighting against. America was promoting a libertarian Christian government where it's not forced by the government, but
they can both be
promoted.
We got Jesus on the back of the dollar, y'all.
And so that's the best system. There is no perfect system. There is no perfect answer that will solve all human problems. There's only better than others.
It's because
look how Christian we are. We did nothing but fucking bloodshed, mass murder, and fucking pillage.
A libertarian government that allows the freedom of religion is better than a theocracy, is what I'm saying. That's what I'm arguing.
So if you're saying that the US started as a libertarian Christian country,
yes,
and it's the best system that's going to work forever. It didn't.
I didn't say it was going to work forever. I said it's the best system.
Okay, it worked for what?
It worked for at least 100 years, if not a little over 100 years.
How much time did the Byzantine Empire work? How much time was it?
All empires failed, dude. There's no empire that lasts.
America's failing much faster than the Byzantines did.
Yeah, the Byzantine was over 1,100 years.
300 years.
Hey, Nadim, is the Holy Roman Empire still around? Is the
how long? Is your empire, is your libertarian view still around? No.
Do you have an Eastern Orthodox country that you'd like to present that was a successful theocracy?
Russia.
Well, how do you find a theocracy? Because it's not the same.
Russia,
defined as
Orthodox.
Byzantium,
probably Wallachia under
Byzantium was.
Is Byzantium still around? Are the Byzantines still around?
It stayed.
But I-Fi, you're not making a coherent argument. Nobody's arguing that the empires don't rise and fall. The point was what's actually most sustainable, and secularism, given its cultural record, can't survive over 300 years. And we have multiple historical examples of monarchies and what you would describe as theocracies that have lasted over 1,000 years.
I'm not arguing for secularism. I'm arguing
that is what separation of church and state is. I'm
arguing that a theocracy, no matter which church is in charge of the country, will fail. Period.
But that's true for anything this side of eternity. I mean, that's
worse. It's worse to be in that system because
that's where you
get your head chopped off for not worshiping the right God or whatever, or kissing the right tree.
That was actually the case.
Why is it worse?
We're not talking about Calvin.
Can I show you where that's actually the case? Are you familiar with the Dark Ages in Europe, where the Pope ran all the countries?
Yeah, but the Dark Ages were thriving in Byzantium at that time. That's my point. If you look at history.
So you think we should go back to the Dark Ages of Europe because that's better than America?
No, not Europe.
You sound like someone who doesn't know about perspective. You're equivalent to somebody looking at America and be like, you are all like Californians are all blue-haired feminists because they see some of it, and you're just coloring all of it by that one caricature.
I'm pointing out more the cultural problem.
So you're saying it's not important to be sustainable as a state. It's just important.
And they do go hand in hand. That's the problem. You can't address one without the other. You can't address culture without government or religion.
Your line of logic.
You have to tie them all together.
Explain to me the line of logic you took. Okay, so you said the libertarian state worked in the U.S. for a couple of 100 years.
Okay, and then you gave the example of Russia. You said Russia is better than America because it was a better Orthodox Christian nation than America.
Listen, let me finish my point. Okay, so that's 100 years. Okay, and you said we have to go back there, but it failed in 100 years. And I'm
how many years did Christian Russia last?
Listen, the theocracy of Byzantium was up for 1,100 years. So that's 1,000 years more. Which one? How is your argument better than mine?
My argument is history. So currently,
that's his argument too.
We're dealing with Russia that became the Soviet Union, which promoted communism because of all the great Orthodox Christianity
running
by
the West.
How long was
from the West?
Hold on, guys.
How long was the Soviet Union? 20 years, 30 years, 50 years?
One at a time. We're talking a little bit over each other. So somebody else can chime in response to I-Fi, and then he can respond to myself and whoever's next. But the point is not that Bolshevik revolution, which we know who is behind that, has anything to do with Orthodox Christianity. The point that he was making is just historical examples of empires, and your initial discussion on secularism and let's just say from 1776 to 1876, since you said the first 100 years,
at least,
yeah. So our point is that Enlightenment values the divorcing of God and state and the elevation of reason actually has been a failed experiment throughout the world. And you can point to any any current secular or former Protestant nation. And it's not that one is arguing that Russia is the greatest country to ever exist, but you could still point that they still have their Christian faith. So since Vladimir the Great, let's say the 900s up to 2024, Russia is still Orthodox Christian. Despite 80 years of the Soviet Union.
I think that's a pretty hot debate right there. Does Russia still have its Christian identity? I don't know. That's a tough one.
How does it not?
It's the biggest Orthodox country.
Were you around during World War II when the Soviets?
That was the Bolshevik Revolution, bro. That was a total different period. That fell in December of 1991.
Would you still identify as a Christian nation there, or what are you saying?
We just said no. It's communist. Do you know who the Bolsheviks were?
Yeah.
Of course. So that has nothing. That was antagonistic to Orthodoxy and Christianity. They killed millions and millions of Orthodox Christians.
So before World War II, how long did Russia remain a good example of a Christian nation?
800 years.
Over 800 years.
Okay,
you're talking about history.
That's a good start. I still think
it's better than 100 years.
I still think first of all, the question is, why did it fail? If it's the best system, why did it fail?
It's not eternity. There's no system on Earth that could sustain eternity.
I already said that.
That's not our argument.
There is
that's
no
not our argument.
system.
We're just saying it's better than your worldview that only sustained 100
so was it a theocracy? Was Russia a theocracy? Were you punished by death if you weren't Christian?
No.
You're not punished by death if you weren't Christian.
They did the same shit in Siberia. They did on the American.
Neither did Byzantium or the Holy Roman Empire.
You should read the history of the Rus.
Actually, there were a lot of nations that would.
I'd still want to know how more freedom is bad.
The ring. So that's the age-old debate. Based, it's like which side do you fall on? The authoritarian Christian nationalist side or the libertarian Christian side, because those are very different approaches.
Well, here's the thing. Authoritarianism, which is kind of the opposite of freedom in some term, right, has not seemed to do very well for the world in general. You want to put the power of the people in the government, and here I understand that you're fighting for less government, but how do you make that work? How do you
because you still promote Christianity. I'm not saying you dismiss it or ignore it. You just don't enforce it by law. You don't use the government to say, if you're not a Christian, we will shame you and deport you or whatever, anything like that.
Well, sure, you can encourage it without forcing it, and I think that would be the proper way. If you believe in it, and therefore you're making it seem incentivized in some way, look, you'll go to heaven, you'll have a better life, this sort of thing. But again, I don't know how that really goes to the argument that more freedom is bad. More individual freedom.
I'm saying it tongue in cheek. You have to understand the way I'm saying it. I'm saying with freedom comes more responsibility. Some humans are not good at personal responsibility. They are sheep that have to be led because they cannot think for themselves. So for those groups of people, a government is good because that village tells them how to live a moral, justified life.
But it's resulting in what you're complaining about in society, right? All the sheep,
There's the catch. There's the catch, Chase. There's always
that's why I'm not sure why you're really
right. That's why we're confused by your argument, because it seems self-contradicting.
It sounds like it because when you're young, you think that the answer is more government because thinking is hard. So I'm just gonna let daddy government tell me how to live my life because I'm dumb and I can't think for myself.
Well,
when you
survival
get older,
of the fittest.
You start becoming more individual, and you say, "Fuck the government! I can control myself."
What about
I can't understand. You're contradicting yourself.
That's the contradiction. Is humanity is dynamic. Sheep don't always remain sheep. Some of them grow their own brains and start thinking for themselves. That's your problem. Do you remember when the leftards blew up California and completely ruined the entire state? What did they do? They just all packed up and moved over to Texas. Well, guess what? Red state's slowly turning into a blue state now. Have you seen Austin lately? Have you seen Houston?
It's been that way forever.
No, it hasn't been forever.
No, studies have shown that most people leaving these states are mostly conservative, not blue. Austin has been blue forever. It's been terrible forever.
Yeah.
No, I'm saying starting there. Look at the blast radius that is now turning blue overnight.
But Joe Rogan is still the biggest.
We're arguing about the solution
because everyone in California just moved to Texas, and now they're going to parasite off of that state until they turn it blue and kill it.
If they turned it blue, why would they leave? It's the Reds that are leaving. That doesn't make sense.
If every state was so easily destroyed like that from the blue wave, wouldn't they just do that with every state? I mean, if that's how weak the red states are. That's why
the people that left New York are destroying Florida and so on. It's just nonstop. They blow up everything that they own, and then they move on.
So when they leave, what happens?
obviously we would all like to see Ron Paul as our president, but we know that's not going to happen. So Rand Paul at least tries to pretend like he's in government and make some change in our system. Obviously, he's making zero change, but you know, maybe he feels like he's making a difference. And so, again, that's the problem. The problem is it's so overwhelmingly controlled by the left. There is no competition. There is no debate or fight, pushback from the right. And so that's all I was trying to get at from the very beginning and throughout this entire discussion.
Well, I would think Malay would be perfectly indicative of your example that there is no real opposition, because I don't think he is at all.
Well, I mean, again, he's slightly less worse than like Maduro or something like that. You know, I mean,
there isn't less worse, and I think Milei is the perfect example of what you explained of.
He's slightly less worse than Stalin or Mao. You know, he's slightly less left wing than those people. So, you know, good on them for at least going.
You said you don't care how slightly left wing. It's either center left wing or left wing. So it doesn't mean that he's right wing if he's slightly.
I agree. The Overton window.
Okay, then don't
completely broken down the entire ability to communicate. I agree with you. That's the point. So you can be some people like rant and just say it's all fake and I don't give a shit or whatever, and that's fine, Nadim, if that's the path you want to go with. I'm trying to reclaim the meaning of words and show that they used to have meaning, and maybe we can go back to actually, you know, redefining the words the way they properly were used the first time. I'm just saying, like, we're so
I'm just
far
using
past.
the proper argument. I'm just using your own argument.
Okay, what's my argument? Tell me what my argument is.
There isn't right wing anymore. There's only center left and left.
In America,
so
I agree.
It doesn't.
Yes.
No, you said it doesn't. It's not important if we say we're right wing or not, because anyway.
I didn't say it's not important. I said don't pretend. Don't call yourself right wing when you're just another center left wing person, because you're not doing anyone any favors.
So what's your argument that we're only center left wing? So
my argument is
how does that argument
my argument is the words that have meaning. So like if you're a left wing person, great, then identify as a left wing. If you're a center left wing person, don't call yourself right wing, because you're not right wing. You're just a center left wing.
That's exactly what Milei is doing.
Oh, okay. In the Argentinian Overton window, he is slightly center.
We're just talking about global politics. It
your left hand and your right hand.
Stay in the box of America.
Any guy who
works anywhere.
Who goes into office destroying entire departments, saying afuera, out with all of this government bullshit. That's a point.
That's words. That's exactly what you're arguing against. You're saying you just don't say the word.
No, I'm arguing for that. I would argue we need more Javiers in America. We need more Ron Pauls going in there and saying afuera, and doing away with the Fed.
If you bring back the
doing away with the IRS. And doing away with the CIA and the FBI, and doing away with the DNC and the GOP and the deep state.
Listen. You can't argue against it, because the
Libertarians I can and I do. That's all I do is argue.
So the first 100 years of America, there was this federality of the state, and you're
in the first years of America, we had the CIA.
Hey, I-Fi, let him finish, brother. He lets you finish. Just let him finish his point.
In the first 100 years, do you think the libertarianism isn't exactly what Milei is doing?
I didn't say exactly what Milei is doing. I said he's going in that direction.
It's close. Okay, but look how his country became after.
Yeah, look how screwed up his country is, because it's completely left wing. Like we are becoming.
Because we have after he came into office.
We have a separation of church and state.
And so he's like his country's like a canary for us.
Let me get to my point.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead. I thought you were done. Keep going.
Okay, so the thing I'm arguing is that the whole way you're going into it is taking this libertarian view with only Christian values, but it doesn't work, because we need the church's authority to bring back the Constitution doesn't have any value without those Christian values. But if we don't have a basis to put back those Christian values and efforts, then it doesn't mean anything. The Constitution doesn't mean anything.
That's okay. If you take the side of the Christian nationalist, I understand that's your point of view, and like I said, that's who I argue against.
I'm an Orthodox Christian. that doesn't Christian
You just
nationalism.
criticized me for being libertarian, though. I'm
libertarians
the Christian.
Yeah, libertarian is a bit of a retarded ideology. You can't argue against degeneracy and then argue for libertarian.
Which part of it's retarded? Is it the part where
it doesn't uphold a universal standard of morality, and that it says what people do in their bedroom doesn't matter, when in fact it has a ripple effect within culture, and the slippery slope is quite evident. Hold on, the slippery slope is quite evident when gay marriage was legalized in 2014, and all of a sudden in 2024, 10 years later, 1 decade, we're now castrating children. And this is something that is punishable if you criticize it on social media. So
okay, that's fine. So what all of the panel is saying is that the United States of America, when it was formed, was retarded because they were arguing too much about liberty and freedom and should have been arguing about more theocracies controlled by the religion of
be in a
their
better
choice.
position than we are.
Your
now,
incredulity and you being so upset and womanly isn't an argument, dude.
Womanly? Oh, I see. I'm womanly because I'm pointing out how retarded you are, and your argument that the best country in the history of mankind has proven you wrong.
Not America.
And you're a whiny little woman bitching about it, and you're in the greatest country that human history has ever had. And that's because of our libertarian freedoms, and we can still maintain Christian morals and capitalist economies. So I understand why you guys get fussy about it, because you have to have daddy.
We gave an argument.
You're just how to live your lives. That's fine. That's fine. I understand, and that's exactly the same argument.
We gave arguments. You're not giving.
Hold on. Neither one. You're totally contradicting yourself when you're talking about that the golden age of America was only lasted for. Okay, he's out. Good.
Whew.
All right.
Yeah.
Jeez.
Recap. Libertarianism is really
some people get really soft when you criticize libertarianiism.
Don't touch the golden calf.
Yeah, for me it makes total nonsense, because libertarianism does not hold to any sort of objective morality, and so how can one like IFI argue against the rampant degeneracy in the United States and claim to be a cultural Protestant Christian, and that we're a Christian nation, and at the same time say that we're no longer a Christian nation? I mean, how does that make sense? The only way that it worked was before we were, in a sense, multicultural, and the majority of this country came from Europe and had a cultural ethos, and they had different forms of Protestantism and Catholicism, but generally speaking, they were united by a shared national ethos. This has totally been destroyed, and this comes part and parcel due to libertarianism and secularism.
Yeah, I mean, his entire time he's been, raging against degeneracy, and the left is doing that, and it's terrible. But his whole worldview of libertarianism fosters that and lets it grow. It's the soil that the liberal stuff, the left stuff grows in. So if he wants to get rid of it, he has to get rid of his libertarianism that's fostering it.